Well, hello there, it's Sandy Allnock for MFT with this month's Create in Color video. And I decided I was going to use this Snow Buddy stamp set to do a self-portrait of me and my dogs building a snowman. I just thought this was such a cute stamp set with the two little girls, and I'm just going to use one of them and a snowman and the two pups. And I'm doing this on some Desert Storm cardstock. And when you color with Copic markers on colored cardstock, the colors are going to come out different. That E00 that I used at first kind of did nothing. So you have to intensify the colors quite a bit in order to make them work. And if you regularly plan on using a particular color of cardstock, and you can try different kinds, I would recommend doing a chart of some sort, whatever kind of color chart you use, hex chart or otherwise, on that cardstock. And that's going to give you a good clue as to what colors are going to give you the kind of look that you want, the intensity of them. And what I'm doing here is trying to create a scene where I'm going to have enough color around everything else that the snow starts to turn into white snow. The thing that makes things look white is having color around them. And I've been experimenting myself with watercoloring snow, and it's amazing how much color I have to put on to make snow look white. If you just leave the piece of paper white, it doesn't really show very much. So I'm going to make a night scene out of this. And I've started coloring me in the picture, the little girl in there, and I chose for this particular one to use this little hat. I have a picture of me that I'm going to post on the MFT blog if you want to go see the picture of me painting in the hat that I'm drawing. I went out recently with a bunch of friends doing some plein air, and it was so cold outside. I am not one who's ever done any cold air painting before outside, and the only hat I could find before I left was this like crazy winter hat with the long pigtail things. So that's why I chose this little girl, because I thought that looked just like me, shivering out there in the cold while I was painting. But the two dogs that I'm coloring, one of them is my little Giallo laying down. He loves to roll in things. He's just that kind of boy. And I put him down on the ground rolling around. You could put him on a sled or something as well, and use him in that kind of a way, or have him slide down a hillside without a sled even. And then Vienna is the other dog. She's just kind of sitting up there very nice. Notice that little scarf she's got on, that's an RV06, which is kind of crazy on paper like this that you can't get that neon look. So if you're looking for those really kind of bright colors, then coloring on a colored cardstock is probably not for you. But for this one, I was really curious to see how I could make this one work and get the colors to really pop while being on this darker cardstock. And I love the fact that it's Anina, because it's still going to do the same blending techniques. I just have to adjust my colors. Other cardstocks you can use, but they don't have the same blending properties. So you just have to practice with them and experiment and see. I have colored on some MFT cardstock before. It does absorb more of the color than you might expect. It's just very absorbent paper. So if you're one who really struggles to preserve your color, then you might want to go with papers like Anina, because it's not going to suck in quite so much of the ink. So I'm just going to put a bunch of greens here in the background. I wanted to make sort of a tall green pile of trees back here, a big old forest behind them, and I should say behind us, since it's a self-portrait. And I'm just going to put streaks of color back here. And it doesn't need to be anything spectacular other than a block of color that has some color shift in it, because people are going to read that as trees. We're outside. The picture is clearly out in the snow. And I'm going to put a lot of snow coming down from the sky. So if you're one who doesn't blend really well, watch how many times I go over this to get the background to blend. And even if it's not perfect, it's still going to work, because what I want to do is go from the medium green that I've already done over most of this area to the blue at the top. And then I'm just working on putting some other color layers in between and letting those kind of blend into each other. as it goes up and down in the background. It's going to just be a vague indicator of a whole forest of trees, and the snow over top is going to cover any blending errors. But know that it's going to take a little while to get enough color in there if you really want it to be dark. And you'll have to wait for the ink to dry, because on colored cardstock, you can not really see the color that it's going to end up being. With white cardstock, you can see the color much more quickly. It doesn't fade as much. But on colored cardstock, you see the actual moisture of the ink as opposed to only seeing the color. So on whites, you don't really get that effect. So that's one of the things that if you start coloring on this, you'll notice. Like the B9 one here goes down looking rather dark at first, and then it fades. That's because it's the moisture fading out of the paper. It's drying and evaporating, and it gives you a really light coat of color. So that's why you need to actually put down more color, use stronger colors when you're using colored cardstocks. But now for the magic of where this becomes snow, which is taking a white colored pencil. You can use a Prismacolor or a Polychromos or any kind of white pencil you've got. And I'm going to start by adding a bunch of the snow in a bunch of different places. And this does look like it's got a nice white pop to it. But wait until the next step, because I'm going to add another white as well in order to try to make a foreground snowy pop to it, and then leaving some of it as secondary. So this is not going to look like the final white. So when I go over some of this with the actual white pen, that's going to pull forward. So I'm only going to put this color, this white, on the things that I want to be in the foreground, because I really wanted that to pull forward a lot. And here's where I put the crazy hat thing in the hat that I'm wearing in the picture. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It just has this big white thing across the forehead. It's kind of a lumberjack flap. I'm not really sure what you would call it, but it's a rather crazy hat. And yeah, I looked really silly out there painting in my silly hat, but there you go. So adding a few little white pen details, and if I want to blend it while this pen is wet, I can take my finger and rub it across and get a little soft blend from it as well. Which also means I go from left to right when I'm doing the snow, because I don't want to accidentally touch some of that snow as I'm drawing it. So if you're left-handed, you go the other direction so you don't lean your hand in it. I'm adding extra little snow bits down there on the ground, and you can see now the difference between the white pencil and that white pen. So I'm going to get a much whiter pop from the white pen, but the white pencil gives me another layer of depth. So I get a lot more white in this for, more bang for the buck by using both of those whites for my card. I did use a gajillion markers for this. It's kind of crazy, but it's fun. I love making Christmas cards like this, so I'm good with it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you click the like button and check out my own channel as well. I've got some more MFT over there. I've got some tags that I made today that are going live, so I will see you over there in a little bit. Take care and have a wonderful day.